Epictetus knew these secrets. Most people think they're free, but if your mood can be destroyed by a comment, your peace stolen by a delay, or your confidence shattered by rejection, then you are not free. You are owned, and the most dangerous part is that you don't even know who your master is. Over 2,000 years ago, a man who was born a slave uncovered a truth so ruthless that it dismantles modern ideas of happiness, control, and success. A truth so sharp that once you see it, you can never unsee it. The world has no power over you unless you hand it that power willingly. This man was Epictetus, and his philosophy does not comfort weak minds, it exposes them. It does not promise a painless life, it offers something far more rare, a mind so disciplined, so sovereign, that chaos, insult, loss, and uncertainty no longer control you. If you've ever felt trapped by your emotions, shaken by opinions, or exhausted by trying to control a world that refuses to obey, then what you're about to hear may permanently change how you experience reality itself. Most people live their entire lives in quiet slavery and never realize it, not because chains are placed on their bodies, but because chains are placed on their minds. And more than 2,000 years ago, a former slave named Epictetus understood something that most modern humans still refuse to confront: that freedom is not given, not granted by society, not earned through money or status, but seized internally through ruthless self-mastery. And until you master your inner world, everything outside of you will own you. Epictetus did not speak from comfort, privilege, or philosophical abstraction. He spoke from the lowest rung of society, born into slavery, beaten, powerless in every external sense. And yet what makes his teachings terrifyingly powerful is this paradox. Despite having no control over his body, his position, or his future, he was more free than emperors, because he discovered the single dividing line that determines whether a human being lives as a sovereign or as a prisoner. And that line is this: what is within your control and what is not. This idea sounds simple, almost insulting in its simplicity, but Epictetus was not offering comfort, he was offering war, because the moment you accept this distinction fully, your entire psychological identity must collapse, your excuses evaporate, your victim narratives dissolve, and you are left face to face with an uncomfortable truth. Your suffering is not caused by events, people, or circumstances, but by your judgments about them. This is where Epictetus goes deeper than most philosophers, because he does not ask you to change the world, he asks you to reprogram the mechanism by which you interpret reality itself. And this is why his Stoic philosophy remains one of the most powerful tools for mental strength, emotional resilience, and psychological discipline in the modern world. According to Epictetus, you are not disturbed by what happens, you are disturbed by the meaning you assign to what happens. And the moment you understand this, you realize that most of your anxiety, anger, jealousy, and despair are self-inflicted wounds, reinforced daily through unconscious thought patterns that you never question, never challenge, and never discipline. Epictetus teaches that every event arrives neutral, like raw data, and it is your mind that labels it as good or bad, success or failure, humiliation or triumph. And once you see this clearly, you gain access to a terrifying level of power, because now you understand that no one can insult you unless you agree with them. No one can humiliate you unless you validate their judgment, and no one can break you unless you hand them the authority to do so. This is not positive thinking. This is not denial. This is not emotional suppression. This is radical psychological sovereignty, and it demands a level of honesty that most people are not prepared for, because Epictetus forces you to confront how addicted you are to external validation, approval, control, and certainty. He understood that human beings outsource their peace to things they cannot command: relationships, reputations, outcomes, future scenarios, public opinion, and when those things inevitably change, collapse, or betray them, they call it tragedy, when in reality, it was dependency. Epictetus would say that the moment you say, "I need this to be okay in order to be okay," you have surrendered your freedom, and from that point on, fear becomes your master, because fear always arises where control is absent and attachment is strong. One of Epictetus's most brutal teachings is that you must practice losing things before they are taken from you, not physically, but mentally, because attachment blinds you, weakens you, and makes you predictable, and predictable minds are easy to manipulate, dominate, and destabilize. When you love something, Epictetus warns, love it as something mortal, temporary, and borrowed, not because you should be cold or detached from life, but because clinging turns love into fear, and fear turns love into suffering. This is where modern psychology quietly echoes Stoicism, because Epictetus understood centuries before neuroscience that emotional pain intensifies not from loss itself, but from resistance to loss, and the refusal to accept impermanence. He trains the mind to say, "This was never mine to own, only to experience." And this single shift transforms grief into gratitude, anxiety into presence, and despair into composure. But Epictetus does not stop at emotional resilience. He goes further into identity destruction, because he knew that the ego is the most fragile and dangerous structure a human can build their life upon, and that most suffering comes from confusing who you are with what you have, what you do, or how you are perceived. He strips identity down to one thing only: your capacity to choose your response, your judgments, and your character in each moment, nothing else. Not your career, not your body, not your social status, not your past, not your trauma, not your future ambitions, only your inner faculty of choice, what he called the ruling principle of the mind. This is why Epictetus believed that no one can truly harm a good person, because harm only exists when virtue collapses, not when circumstances turn hostile. And this idea is deeply unsettling to modern sensibilities, because it removes blame, removes entitlement, and removes the comforting illusion that the world owes you fairness. Instead, Epictetus offers something far more demanding and far more empowering: the responsibility to govern yourself regardless of what the world does. He believed that life is not meant to be comfortable. It is meant to test you, shape you, and reveal whether your philosophy is real or decorative. Because philosophy, in Stoicism, is not something you read, it is something you embody under pressure. He would say that if you cannot remain calm when insulted, composed when rejected, disciplined when tempted, and steady when uncertain, then your philosophy is cosmetic, not functional. This is why Epictetus emphasized daily mental training, not affirmations, but rehearsal for adversity, because the mind that has never practiced hardship panics when hardship arrives. He teaches you to wake up each day expecting obstacles, insults, delays, and disappointments, not pessimistically, but strategically, so that when they occur, you meet them as familiar opponents rather than shocking intrusions. This is psychological armor, not negativity. And here is where Epictetus becomes deeply relevant in a world dominated by social media, comparison culture, and constant emotional stimulation, because modern humans are trained to react instantly, emotionally, impulsively, and Epictetus trains you to pause, observe, and choose. Between stimulus and response lies your freedom, and most people never step into that space. Epictetus understood that the person who reacts emotionally is always controlled by whoever provoked them, and that true power lies in emotional neutrality, not indifference, but mastery. He teaches you to ask, in every situation, "Is this within my control?" And if the answer is no, then your only task is acceptance without bitterness, resentment, or self-pity. because resistance only adds suffering to inevitability. If it is within your control, then complaint is betrayal, because action is required, not lamentation. This binary clarity is what gives Stoicism its razor edge, and what makes Epictetus one of the most dangerous philosophers to weak mental frameworks. He removes ambiguity, excuses, and emotional indulgence, and replaces them with discipline, accountability, and inner stillness. And perhaps his most radical teaching of all is this: that happiness is not found in pleasure, success, or achievement, but in alignment with nature, reason, and virtue, meaning living in accordance with what you can control, accepting what you cannot, and acting with integrity regardless of outcome. This is why Epictetus remains timeless, because in an era obsessed with control, certainty, and validation, he teaches surrender without weakness, acceptance without defeat, and discipline without cruelty. He reminds us that the mind trained in Stoic wisdom becomes unshakable, not because life becomes gentle, but because the soul becomes strong. And if there is one final lesson Epictetus leaves us with, it is this: you are not here to be comfortable, you are here to be unbreakable. If this philosophy resonates with you, if you're seeking mental strength, emotional mastery, and timeless Stoic wisdom for the modern world, then this is exactly what Stoic Gateway exists for. Subscribe to Stoic Gateway and walk the path of inner freedom, discipline, and unshakable calm.